Okay. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, I apologize that we were not able to start at 7 o'clock, but we're starting. We had a little technical glitch. So we're here today for a CPIC parent presentation. The Halton Catholic District School Board 2023-2024 Maths Achievement Plan Action Plan demonstrates our commitment to provincial priorities while recognizing the unique needs of our communities to ensure continued focus on high achievement in mathematics. My name is Edosa Adams Idode. I am the representative for the CPIC parents for Milton and Halton North. On behalf of the CPIC community, I welcome everyone to this evening's presentation. This presentation is for parents, welcoming the parents who are present here today, and of course, all the parents who are present online for this event. Today's event is to learn valuable insights into Halton Catholic District School Board Maths Achievement Plan and resources and support available to students in grade 1 to grade 6. Before I introduce our speakers for tonight, we'd like to start off with our prayer and of course, our line acknowledgement. So let's begin with the sign of the cross in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Almighty, everlasting God, you have created us to love and to participate in the beauty of all creation. Give us the strength to do justice. May we walk with your Son, Jesus, in righteousness, working towards a world that celebrates the gift of all people and building a society rooted in your truth. Give us the courage to embrace those who are different from us and to actively work to be a voice for those who have been hurt and victimized. Fill our hearts to love kindness. May we imitate Jesus by showing compassion and forgiveness to our family, friends, and foes. And may we humble ourselves to ask for forgiveness when we need it. May the love of Jesus live within us and allow us to bring peace and kindness to our relationships. Share with us the grace to walk humbly with you, our Father, recognizing all life as a gift, knowing that we have been loved into creation. Help us to live with a servant's heart and to trust in you always. We ask all this through Jesus, our friend and our Lord. Amen. On that note, we would, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, amen. We would now go over to the line acknowledgement and over to our thank you.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis,
from the lands of the Anishinaabe,
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lakes
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters
to honor and respect
the four directions:
lands, waters, plants,
animals, and ancestors
that walked before us.
All these wonderful elements of creation exist,
gifted to us by our Creator God. We acknowledge and thank
the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Thank you very much. Next on our item is the speakers for tonight. Once again, we welcome the parents who are present here. Thank you for joining us, as well as all of you online. Our speakers for tonight are Superintendent Michael CPIC and his team of math consultants, namely Matt Callaghan, Chris Vanwell, and Andrea Turkett. Briefly, a bio of our superintendent, Mr. CPIC, whose experience for today comes with a leader in education for over 20 years. He served at Brant Hadman North Fork Catholic District School Board for most of his career in a variety of roles, including teacher, vice principal, as well as student, worked with the student achievement team. Superintendent CPIC has extensive experience in his role as a superintendent of education at the provincial demonstration school branch for the Ministry of Education. He has participated in a number of system level and provincial committees, such as the board principal lead for the implementation of the Ontario Elementary Math Curriculum. He is an expert reviewer for the EQAO Maths assessments and a past member of the EQAO Accommodations and Review Committee. He's also shared his expertise as a presenter at the Ontario Association of Mathematics Education, OAME, conference. Tonight, he comes with his team of maths consultants to provide information on EQAO assessments and demonstrations of essential math tools such as Knowledge Hook, Grade 3 and Grade 6 EQAO, Caribou Maths, and representations that work in mathematics. So please join me virtually, as well as those parents present here, to welcome our experts today, Superintendent CPIC. Thank you.
Very much. Hello, everybody online, and hi, everybody here today. We're going to be talking about primary and junior math today. I hope everybody's ready to do some interaction, because we will be we'll be doing some work with a couple of tools that we've introduced as a board and that are part of our math plan. So what I'm going to start with, if I jump right over to the next slide there. There's a QR code, so if you can grab your phones and jump right onto this right here. And those of you at home, you're more than welcome to touch on the link or use the QR code. We're going to give you about 10 minutes, and it's a lot of fun. We call this a calacrostic, so try it out. There's no test on this afterwards, but this is a contest that we've introduced to kids online that you're welcome to play. So for those online, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. We're going to give you that time to play along and do the work. Or maybe, sorry, it's 5 minutes. This one's 5. Start. I'm just. Yeah, about 3 more minutes. Yeah. You can get your kids out like the check for using all they're doing not leaving it to free. That's because that's we run them all the time. I think that's. Just about 1 more minute to go. About 10 more seconds. Okay, so this was an example of Caribou Math. This is a contest that we've all subscribed to here in Halton Catholic District School Board. All students could have access to this. You just need to talk to your classroom teacher or your principal about subscribing. The board has picked up the tab, so it is free of charge. On there, you can have unlimited online games that they provide. You can even do fun ones like Minesweeper, which takes you right back to the days when you were doing some work. Plus fun little games called Fruit Salad, where you're trying to cover up objects and trying to uncover them. All very much training your brain to think mathematically and get your kids to think mathematically. And I recommend parents you play that with your kids because it's a lot of fun. The contest is open to students from grade 2 to 12. Lately, we've had about 1,000 students participate across the board. We've had some great successes. Some of our high schools have actually come in first place in internationally because Caribou Math is international. But it's a contest that's run out of Ontario through Brock University. So once you, as I mentioned, once your kids sign up, they have online access and unlimited access to the games, puzzles, and previous math contests. And that's another way that your kids can actually try some things out, is to go online, practice some of the tests, and somebody on a YouTube video will actually give them solutions too. So kind of coach them through if they didn't get it right. So now I'm going to talk about our math plan. We have 3 goals, and they're kind of outlined by the province. The first one is to ensure fidelity of curriculum implementation, including intentional use of high-impact instructional strategies. Our next strategy that the province has asked us to focus on is to engage in ongoing learning to strengthen mathematics content knowledge for teaching. And finally, we want to make sure we know the mathematics learner and ensuring mathematical tasks, interventions, and supports are intentional and responsive. So under goal 1, we've done a few things to help out teachers, and I'll explain some of the things that we've done. We have something called the scope and sequence. So we at the central level kind of create from the resources that we provided. Here's a kind of trajectory that a teacher might be able to follow when they're providing instruction in the classroom. We also then we've invested in digital diagnostic tools. The one that you're going to be working with is called Knowledge Hook. We'll be introducing you to that in a little bit. But we've also invested in Caribou Math. We've also invested in additional resources for teachers to use in their classroom. So Mathology is something that has been available in grades 1 to 6, but now we also have for grades 7 and 8 students, and we provided training for teachers in that area. Just seeing on the screen here, a different slideshow that I've got up there.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Goal 2. So we also have goal 2, which is engaging in ongoing learning and mathematics content knowledge for teaching. So we have something called the Collaborative Concept Study that we work with teachers on. And right now they're happening in all of our elementary schools and our high schools. So we put together high school teachers together with elementary teachers to kind of think about certain concepts. So the ones that we picked specifically, and this is based on some of the feedback, teachers are right now working on the concept of fractions and integers, because we know that from the research that we've received, fractions tends to continue to be a sticking point for some of our students. And we'll do a little fractions activity a little bit later. And believe it or not, adults continue to struggle with that concept too. So there's enough research out there to actually say people at the college level even continue to struggle with the concept of fractions. So we're providing them that learning so they can succeed. We're also working on integers, because some of the feedback we received from our high school teachers is that, you know, students may have an understanding at a good level of how to subtract and add fractions or multiply and divide. And I'm sure you're kind of thinking about some of the rules you had to learn before. But we want to get them a much deeper understanding of that, because we know when it gets into the high school level and they start doing algebra instead of using real numbers, some of these things, so all of a sudden what they thought they knew becomes confusing again. So we want to really get into the heart of how do you do that properly. I myself, as a superintendent, am helping lead professional development for our principals. A lot of that is around how to actually do student achievement planning in the area of mathematics and what kind of goals we'd want to set, and then what kind of tools we could use to monitor the achievement of students in our classrooms. We also have designed PA days for our teachers to be collaborative. So just recently in Milton in November, we had all the high school teachers brought together in the area of math to talk about their student achievement plans, to learn about Knowledge Hook, and in general, just collaborate with their colleagues to find out what's going on in their math worlds in different high schools across the district. Last but not least, our content sharing initiatives. You're part of it right now, and thank you to those online for being part of it too. We want to make sure that parents are drawn in and understand, you know, what we're doing. This is going to be recorded as well as it's live streamed right now. Sorry, just one second. And now we're going to get to goal 3. So on goal 3, we have knowing the mathematics learner, ensuring mathematical tasks and interventions and supports are relevant and responsive. We've done quite a number of things in our school district right now, in our district, to help support this. First off, we're working with EQAO, and that is the provincial organization that assesses our kids, and you'll learn more about EQAO in a little bit. We use it for grade 3 and grade 6 learners and grade 9. So if your student was in grade 3, 6, or 9, they'll have written EQAO. And our next testing for elementary students will be happening in June of this year, and May, June. So if you have a child in grade 6 or in grade 3, probably getting a letter from the principal shortly to let them know that your child will be writing EQAO. We use this data a lot. So, you know, as much as we care about how your student succeeds, what we do a great deal with this data is take a look, and EQAO will actually take a look at how different students answered these questions. So it gives us feedback on what we need to work on next. And that is primarily how we use this tool, is to help us understand how we need to improve next. So when you heard me saying that we're working with teachers in our professional development days, a lot of that comes from data that we collect from EQAO. We also are asking schools to identify specific topic focus. So you kind of heard me mention, you know, as a system, we're working on fractions. So it wouldn't surprise me that many schools will choose fractions as their focus. It could be integers, but I've seen schools also pick areas like data management because they notice that maybe in the data management area or probability, and that's meaning graphing or, you know, playing games of dice and chance and making predictions. Those are all things that kids have maybe struggled with in the past, so they're making doing some more work around it. We also want to increase interest in mathematics by accelerated learning opportunities, and that is exactly what you just did. Caribou Math kind of pushes the envelope a little bit. We want to look at curriculum as a floor for your kids and not a ceiling. We want to keep pushing them to know that there's always more that they could be doing in the area of mathematics, and kind of inspire them to try other things. We're really excited to talk about the math intervention initiative that that's taken place. I have some members of the team that were doing this in our schools. Based on the data that we saw, we selected some schools and brought in an intervention strategy for our grade 7 and 8 students, but this has already been happening in our grade 6 and 5. So should your child have been struggling in a concept like multiplication, we'd actually be sitting down with them in a purposeful way twice a week for almost 10 weeks, I believe, to help them along and kind of move them forward. And we collect data from that work to inform us that, you know, did we actually get to where we needed to be? We're also participating in a national initiative called the AIM Project. And what it's designed to do is for our youngest learners, for kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2, I'll be working with some teachers to create a screener. And what the purpose of the screener is, just like in reading, that we'll be introducing a screener in reading. We want to know when kids are struggling early on, so we can tell right away what it is that we need to do, or whether we need to kind of flag that for later intervention in grade 2 and 3. And that's what the screener is designed to help us do. In the last month or two, we've actually been able to create a resource for Black History Month, but also we have an initiative in our board, Black 365, which is our intent and purposeful action to ensure that Black history and Black ways of knowing are introduced into our curriculum on a regular basis. So we focused this year's attention on a Black mathematician from the United States, and his name was Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker was born a slave, did not receive any formal education, but became quite good at mathematics in his lifetime. So much so that he did something really neat, which is he accurately, in the late 18th century, sometime around 1789, I believe, accurately predicted the solar eclipse that happened then, which is kind of neat because that's what we're about to have right now. And he's the creator of the first wooden clock in the United States that was working until, unfortunately, what we know about wooden clocks, if they light on fire, they don't work anymore. So his house burnt down and the wooden clock was lost. So we're doing fun things through this activity about creating clocks, understanding time and measurement, and understanding more about the solar eclipse. And sometimes for those who really know what they're doing, explaining the science and the math behind how do you actually predict how solar eclipse is going to happen. We'll also be focusing later on in the year on Indigenous ways of knowing, specifically Canadian Indigenous groups, and creating activities related to First Nations games. And last but not least, we do have in all of our secondary schools school improvement plans, or student achievement plans that they're called now. Some of these things are, and the purpose behind it is to help us understand, you know, here's our learners, what are they struggling with right now, taking a look at attendance rates as mandated by the province now. So this data is what we use all the time, and this is how we reflect as teachers, what do we need to do next? But that is the most of my talking today that you're going to get, other than during some game show and some fun interactive activities. So I'm going to cede the floor now to who's on Knowledge Hook, our consultant, Andrea Turquette, who's going to introduce you to Knowledge Hook.
You might want to ask you to you can turn off your camera.
Good evening, everyone. So thank you for the introduction, Michael. So again, my name is Andrea Turquette, and I'm the curriculum consultant for K-12 mathematics with HCDSB. This year, we were very pleased to be able to offer a new digital tool at HCDSB called Knowledge Hook. And this tool allows teachers to understand student learning need through interactive missions and activities, games and tasks that offer lots of assessment data. It helps students to demonstrate their knowledge and receive intervention, and also helps us as a whole system to understand student learning need. So in addition to providing teachers' classroom data, we're able to see school-based data and system-based data to better understand where our students' strengths in mathematics lie and where our students' needs in mathematics lie as well. So we're going to demo Knowledge Hook for you tonight, and we're going to start with the game show. So I ask that you all go to joinkh.com and enter the class code that you see. I'm going to launch, I'll pop off to another screen for just a moment to launch the game show. And I see some students joining. Great, that's wonderful. Lots and lots of names. Sorry? Just for this. Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. There we go. How many were in the chat? Okay. So typically in a classroom, we wouldn't have this many participants all at once. So it'll take about another minute or so to give everyone an opportunity to join. And the game show that you'll see today is an example of how Knowledge Show can be used live in classroom to offer some interactive activities for the whole class or just even a small group of students that's live and in the moment. And we're up to about 43 participants. We'll give it another 30 seconds. And the questions you'll see today are we'll go through 3 questions, and there are a variety of questions from grades 1 to 6 curriculum. I think we're good. We'll start. Okay, we'll get started. And on your screens, you should each have now a question. Yeah, I'm missing my. It's not letting me control that. We have no. It's not loading the knowledge book, so it's all to take a minute. We're having a bit of an issue.
Just hit enter.
I will once. I'll give them a minute to answer it. I'm going to try hitting enter. I can't add the screen to control. So my apologies. We're having a bit of a technical difficulty, but the screen to control the teacher end of this to administer the game show is lagging. Not loaded. Yeah, I'm going to try I've never done that before in a game show. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't. My apologies. We're just going to try a quick refresh and hopefully, oh, great. So nobody was knocked out of the game. That's great. So we'll give you another 3 seconds to select your answer. I'm going to end the question and see how we did. And I hear some cheers in the background. That's great news. Yay. Wonderful. I see lots of great answers here. So we'll move forward with our next question in the game show. So we have a class win. And you can see that Knowledge Hook spends quite a bit of time celebrating. Knowledge Hook spends quite a bit of time celebrating celebrating the accomplishments and the work that go into answering each of these questions. Keeps a really positive mindset around mathematics. I see many, many answers being locked in. We'll give it another 5 seconds. Okay, we're going to end this question and move to our final question in our game show. Wonderful. So what you are seeing here on screen is what the teacher would see normally. The students in class won't see all the correct or incorrect, but this is an example of some of the information and feedback that teachers are provided in real time to help them understand where students are understanding the concepts or demonstrating the skills that we're targeting in that moment, or where we might need to address a misconception in that moment. We'll move to the final question. 68 correct answers so far. That's wonderful. So this is an example of a problem from the grade 5 curriculum. You can see that there's a little more written. Okay. There's a little more written pieces, and we see fractions and decimals, which are a more complex number system that we start to explore as we move into the junior grades. I see. We'll finish off in about 3 seconds. Almost everyone's locked in. We'll end the question now. And I see wonderful work here. Again, an example of some of the feedback that we get for those who are able to see this page. But for those of you at home, you're seeing congratulations and some cheers for the results. Our final class score for this game show was 126 correct answers. Over 50% of our class today was successful on this game show. That's a class win, so we'll finish the game. Thank you everyone for participating. And we'll. So this was just one example of Knowledge Hook activities. Knowledge Hook also provides in addition to live activities such as a game show, Knowledge Hook provides opportunities for teachers to offer quiz type questions, interactive activities such as the game show in a through something called a mission that is not live and can be completed in a self-paced situation where students complete it on their own time or at their own pace. They can complete it. They don't need to all be completing this task all at the same time and all at once. In addition to missions and game shows, which are assigned to students by teachers and are chosen by teachers for content as well, students can engage in a really exciting part of Knowledge Hook called a mathlon. So the mathlon at Knowledge Hook does not require that your child is assigned these activities. The Knowledge Hook mathlon is something that students can work towards and practice and build math skills at their own pace within. So in order to access a mathlon, students can access this differently. They don't need to wait for a mission to be assigned. They don't need to wait for a game show to be assigned. As soon as their teacher has set them up for Knowledge Hook, they go to joinkh.com, enter the class code provided, and you'll see that I have no class code provided right now because that will depend on the class code that your child has been provided by their classroom teacher. They'll select their name in a list that will show up. So the way that our classrooms are created in Knowledge Hook, when we create a classroom, we generate a class list with just first name, last initial. So your child's first name, last initial will be there. Students are assigned a very short, small password provided by the classroom teacher, available only to the classroom teacher and student and family. And they will enter that password. And then once students enter into the main page of Knowledge Hook, they can see at the very bottom a menu bar. They'll be brought to the main part of the menu initially, but if they click the star at the bottom where solve is, that's where students can begin to engage with the mathlon and choose to engage with any mathematics tasks or activities at their grade level in that mathlon, however they wish and whenever they wish. So it's a wonderful feature. So we're going to move forward with some information tonight about EQAO. So I'll welcome Chris Van Wil, one of our elementary de-streaming itinerants, to share. Okay. Turn the camera off for a second. Sure.
Do the switch. Hello, everyone, in person and online. My name is Chris Van Wil, one of the de-streaming itinerants for the HCDSB, and just here to talk to you about grade 3 and 6 EQAO. So EQAO has been assessing students in Ontario since late 1990s. It did used to be on paper, switched to online during our COVID years. 2020 might have been the first time it was online. EQAO is public. It's for students in publicly funded schools in Ontario. They will write an EQAO assessment in mathematics 3 times in their grade 3, 6, and 9 years. The EQAO assessments will then provide data to the boards and schools to allow them to see student learning strengths and needs by analyzing that data and determining where we can improve. That data would be able to be tracked, how that grade 3 cohort did as they went into grade 6, as they went into grade 9. That is something the data can do. One of the most important changes that happened when it went to online is that we did lose that print feature, which allowed students to do the work on the paper. And so something that Andre just spoke about, Knowledge Hook, is another digital tool that asks students to answer questions like we all just did. However, it doesn't have the paper in front of the students to kind of work out some of their thinking. And that is something that should be stressed by teacher and parents when doing Knowledge Hook and EQAO, is that need to still kind of work out some thinking on paper that is accessible in the classrooms for the students to do. The other point I would like to make is so we are going to try a sample of a grade 3 and 6 assessment. One of the connections I would like to make to Knowledge Hook is that there is released material for EQAO. It is downloadable from their website, but it is also accessible for teachers on Knowledge Hook. So that is another benefit of that Knowledge Hook resource. When you click on, we'll take about 10 minutes to look at one of these practice assessments that are open to Ontario students. We can put up the link now. So these links will take you to a practice assessment for the grade 3 and 6. One of the things you might want to look at when you do it is the digital tools, the assistive tools that are down the right-hand side. There are many tools there to help students, such as highlighter, a read to feature, the ability to enlarge or shrink the questions. Grade 6 has access to a formula sheet, and grade 3 has access to a glossary of terms. So those are just some of the tools that are there to assist our students as they do it. So I think what we're going to do now is take about 10 minutes to explore that practice assessment. Those questions are good examples of what students would be completing, but also check out the tools that are there for you.
We have about 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes and we'll be back. We have 1 more minute. 1 more minute.
So what you have just had some time to explore is the grade 3 and 6 practice assessment that is available online. It will continue to be online until the delivery of EQAO. That one is open to all. However, if you have a student in grade 3 and 6, they will do a separate practice assessment. They will do a separate practice assessment prior to completion, just to get them accustomed to working online. Thank you for your time. I'm going to pass it back to Michael. You have the mouse. Hang on, I know he keeps. Michael, can I just have the mouse for 1 second?
So we're going to talk about tools that work right now, and I'm going to need some volunteers for the audience to do this. This is from the high impact strategies. The Ministry of Education, I kind of mentioned that this is one of the areas that we focus on with teachers. We know that the use of tools and representation supports a conceptual understanding of mathematics at all grade levels. So when we say tools and representations, we talk about things like counters, we talk about linking cubes, and we talk about representations. So you might have seen one on Knowledge Hook that we think is really powerful when it comes to multiplication, and it's the array. When you line up things in kind of a rows and columns, that is a very good way for children to develop their understanding of multiplication. They usually start off by putting things in circles and thinking in, there's three circles, 4 things in each circle. But we like to move it over, especially in the junior grades, so it becomes a tool that they could work with. And eventually we create this really neat thing called an open array. So they've developed some really neat ways of thinking, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Tools and representations explicitly and visually represent math ideas that are abstract. When paired with discussion, they help demonstrate concepts in thinking. Visual representations provide an opportunity to talk about math, to examine mathematical relationships, and to make the problem-solving process visible. I always like to use the example if I was speaking a different language, or when you're teaching your child how to learn how to speak, you do that through exposure. You wouldn't just say rock. Maybe if they're holding the rock, it might mean a lot more when you say the word rock. And if you say dog, if you've never seen a dog in your life and nobody pointed to a dog and I said the word dog, you might not know what I'm talking about. But if I point to the dog and you hear the dog bark, you could touch the dog, you actually get a much deeper understanding of what a dog is, rather than just looking at a picture or somebody describing it to you. And that's the way kids actually develop mathematical knowledge too, through observation, through experimentation. I'm going to show you an example here. This is the author, Jo Boaler. She's going to show you some neat things. When we talk about an array, she's going to be using a tool called an open array. So we get rid of all the circles and we move away from squares and we just begin using a tool like this. Let's turn up the volume of that. Welcome back. We're going to talk about fractions and chocolate, and I'm going to do some setup, and I'm going to get some live audience participation here in a second. And who doesn't like chocolate? And I promise you're going to leave with a chocolate bar. Sorry, online audience, I haven't figured out how to send that virtually yet. What we know about mathematics and models. The first representation students see modeled in mathematics is the one that they refer to the most. That means that whatever somebody showed you means a fraction, you're going to think that. It's likely that many of us older folks here, including myself, were taught with circles, which is quite okay, except it's a little confusing for kids. And I'm going to do a demonstration in a little bit to help you kind of see what I mean. So we know that for representations that work for fractions, we talk about flats and rods. So these are things that you kind of use, they're base 10 blocks. We use number lines quite a bit. Number lines are fantastic for so many different mathematical representations, including addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. We use rectangular area models. So that's kind of what you saw Joe Bowler do just now. That's a rectangular area model. We also use volume models. A conceptual understanding is better developed with context. So on top of the fact that we talk about representations, we also like to put context to it. So I don't want to just put a rectangle there. I might actually put and describe it as a cake. Okay, so we're going to avoid the representation of a circular cake or a circular pie. But we're going to talk about square pies and square pizzas and square cakes. And I'll explain to you in one little bit about why squares are much better. We also know that research in the Ontario curriculum talks about fair sharing as a great place to start with our young learners. And what does fair sharing mean? Well, I mean, we all have kids, and we always know that they fight over everything. And usually when you cut something, they complain, he got more, she got less. So then we turn it into, okay, you cut, she picks. And that's usually the fairest way to figure it out. And then, of course, the person never wants to cut because they're really nervous about what's about to happen. But it's a great opportunity to learn about fractions. So what I'm going to demonstrate now, and just bear with me, audience, as I get I need 10 volunteers. And audience members virtually, we're going to have a poll going on, so you'll have a chance to participate with us here. So if I could get, you want to come up? Okay. So audience here on virtual, what I have in my hand is a chocolate bar, but I have 3 chairs. Chair number 1 has 1 chocolate bar. Chair number 2 has 2 chocolate bars. Chair number 3 has 3 chocolate bars. Okay. What's going to happen is our first friend, what's your name? Alexander is going to pick a chair to stand behind. He gets whatever chocolate is there, but the catch is other people are going to join him. So he's going to have to share that chocolate with somebody else, whoever joins him. So there's going to be 9 other people coming. Which chair do you want to pick? Right here? Over there? Why do you want to pick that one? It has the most, okay? So if you stand there right now, how many chocolate bars are you getting? 3. So we all know Alexander's going to get 3 chocolate bars right now. Okay, who's next? You want to come up? Come on over. What's your name? Nate. Nate's going to pick a chair. Which chair? Here? Okay. Nate, why did you want to pick this chair? 2 chocolate bars. What if you went over there? Well, how much would you get? Alexander, if Nate came over there, how much would he get? 1.5. I need a marker, Mr. K. Go. How would you do that? So we have the 3. How would you separate it, Nate? Alexander? 1 goes in half like this?
Yeah.
Oh, for all of them? Okay. So they'd all be cut in half and Nate would get each half, right? Okay. And I'm sure somewhere out there you're thinking, what, I'd do it differently, and that's quite okay. Right? That's kind of what we're celebrating right now, is that there are different ways of thinking about it, but we know eventually these two would share 1.5. Let's see what happens next. Next person, come on up. What's your name? John, where do you want to stand? There. Okay, so how much are you getting, John? 1. Okay, so John, just stay right behind the chair there. So John's getting 1, Nate's getting 2, Alexander's getting 3. And I'm going to be really tested on my memory here on names in a bit. Usually I do this with a class of students I know. If I can get another volunteer. Adults, you're more than welcome. Come on over. Okay, Madam Chair. Nate, or Alexander, sorry, how much are you getting now? There's 2 of you, so how many do you have, how much chocolate are you getting? One and a half. All right, so we're comfortable with 1.5, and Alexander's strategy would be to cut this in half, all 3 in half, and each person will get half. How many halves is that? 3 halves. So we might write it like there's 2 sections, so we might see something like that, right? What would be another way to say that? Madam Chair, what would be another way to say this? If you got, instead of 3 halves, what if we did it like this? Oh, so 1.5, sorry. Is that true? So now we're kind of prompting kids to kind of think about the math that they're doing and say, oh, so 1.5 is the same as saying 3 halves? That's interesting. You know, and sometimes we're just introducing a concept here. Another person. Anybody, don't worry. Yeah, come on. Don't worry, I need 10. All right, so that
I'll go here.
okay, so right now, how much are you each getting?
1.
1 each. Okay, so 1.5. Look at this, you're still winning, you get 1. Nobody's gonna bug you yet, right? And you're hoping nobody comes. All right, could I get another volunteer? Right, we're going from 1.5 to now what?
1 each.
Is everybody getting 1 each now? Okay. So maybe another volunteer, come on in. Over here? Uh-oh.
Oh.
John, right? John?
Yeah.
Can we share? John, how much are you getting now? Now that there's another person here. 1/2. And you're going to get, so both get 1/2. And we're gonna make sure somebody cuts it fairly, right? That's important.
I'm only losing, but I get you.
Yep, they're absolutely all volunteers get a bar of chocolate today. That's the parting gift you get. So that we're counting these as 1. Okay, so now we have. Well, this is interesting. What's going to happen here? We have 4 people to share 3 chocolate bars. How are we going to figure this out? Alexander, what was your strategy with the halves? Three pieces. Well, there's 4 of you. So how many pieces would each person need? 4 pieces. Okay, so each chocolate bar gets cut into 4 pieces. What's happening with how much chocolate you're getting? Every time somebody shows up, what happens? Do you get more or less?
Less.
Less. Well, how many pieces does each person get? Well, if everybody gets 4, will there be enough pieces for everybody? So they get 3 each. Excuse me. 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and these 3 pieces right here. Okay, so you get 3 pieces each. And how are they divided right now? What's the size of the piece? 3/4 pieces. So now everybody's getting 3/4 pieces. They're getting 3, we could say 3/4 of a chocolate bar. Okay, and Seems like you keep losing chocolate. I'm hoping nobody else shows up for you. What's gonna happen if somebody else shows up? That's chocolate. Okay. Now the good news is because I chose a rectangular representation, unlike a circle, I could divvy it up again and I could just add an extra section underneath to kind of keep demonstrating the concept. That's why we choose rectangles sometimes. They're easier to work with. I need one more volunteer. I have 4, 7, 8, 8. I need more. One more person. Okay.
I'll donate my chocolate bar to you.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm gonna join here.
Okay.
well, what's going to happen here? Mr. Van Wil, how would you divide up the chocolate bar?
We have 2 bars for 3 people. I'll use these 2 in my picture.
Okay.
Let's do the same idea. Let's cut each of these into thirds.
Okay, and how much would each person get?
So my friend over here, he could get these 2. Lovely lady here could get these 2, and I could get these 2. So 2 thirds.
2 third pieces. So you're actually sharing 2 thirds of a chocolate bar. Okay, now we could get into a debate later on in class. Who's getting more? Group of 4 or the group of 2 here? And how do we know? Okay, but we're not going to go there yet. That's something I'm going to do. One more. I got Mr. Callahan to come over. Here's our last person in the group, and he's going to decide who gets how much chocolate. And sometimes we could play a game with the class. You know, if he goes somewhere, where would he get the least amount of chocolate? Where might he get the most amount of chocolate? And funny enough, the way this sometimes works out, you might end up with everybody getting the same amount. If he's kind. Okay. Wow. How many pieces, if you come here, how much is everybody going to get now?
We have to split each of our chocolate bars into 5 pieces now because we're sharing amongst 5.
Okay. So now, and how much is each person going to get?
Well, we can count out. Each person is going to get 3 fifths.
3/5 pieces. 3/5. So everybody's going to get 3/5 pieces. Okay. So now we're going to do a little bit of math explanation, but I'm going to hand out a chocolate bar for everybody. You all go get to walk away with one. Here you go.
Thank you.
Welcome. And then I'll go. Now, for everybody here and all the audience, I want you to think about what you noticed happening. I want you to think about what was happening with our pieces. As we had more people show up, what was happening with the size of the piece? Smaller and smaller. Now, when we were growing up, we may have been taught to the parents out there that, you know, it's just how much it's divided into, right? So 2/3 means it's divided into thirds. But what we're really trying to develop with our students now is what's actually happening to the size of that unit. What's, you know, so we could get to something, and you might remember this in math when you're doing it. If I asked you to compare 2/5 to 2/6, and which is bigger, right? Like you may be taught we need to find common denominators, find out the thing down here, but maybe right now you might think about what you just learned. Which is the bigger piece, a 5th piece or a 6th piece?
The 2/5 is bigger than the 2/6.
2/5 is bigger. Because we know that, and then I, you know, with my own children at home and with students at school, I tend to say, so who are you sharing it more with? You know, you've got 2, you're sharing with 5 people or with 6 people. When do you get more? Right? And well, I always want, if I share with 5, that means I get more, right? And we may, with younger kids, just talk about it as 1 and 1. Okay, so what you've seen here is kind of an introduction to a model that I'm using. I want kids to start thinking about fractions as rectangles or squares. I've added a context, something that they're familiar with. This will be something they might remember for the rest of their lives. Remember what I mentioned in the research, that when we introduce the first model, that's what's going to stick in their mind. So they're probably going to think back. I'm thinking every time we talk about it is chocolate. Fun things to also separate is licorice, like big ribbons of licorice to kind of divide it up and who's going to get more licorice because that represents that linear model. Could always talk about pizza and having a pizza that's not cut up into pieces and, you know, from sharing it with 4 people versus 8 people, who's getting more, right? And then dealing with that idea of what does that actually bottom number actually mean? And what does this top number mean? And for the record, the top number means how much of it you have. The bottom is the size of the piece. Top number is how many of those pieces you have. Okay, so we learned those fancy words called numerator and denominator, but we want to kind of keep pushing that thinking to say, like, so what does this actually mean? What does this actually mean? Right, and so what you've developed here, if this is new learning for you, is conceptual understanding. So now you've kind of understood the concept behind a fraction and why it's written that way. So now I'm going to move over to Andrea, who's going to talk about the role of parents and how our curriculum helps support that.
So when the 2020 Ontario curriculum came out, there was a section we were really excited to see as educators, and it was the roles and responsibilities section, which outlined roles and responsibilities of many people in who are a critical part of our children's education. So parents, thank you so much for your participation with your child's education. We couldn't do it without you. You are your children's first role models, according to the Ministry of Education. And it's important, I'll read to you the quote from our curriculum, that it's important for schools and parents to work together to ensure that home and school provide a mutually supportive framework for young people's mathematics education. Research assures us of the positive results of parent engagement on student success and parent-child communication about mathematics, including parents fostering a positive attitudes towards mathematics, is one of the many important ways parents may be involved. The work that you do with your children to help support positive attitudes in education, in mathematics and their education, and to support your students when they're exploring their strengths and working through some of their struggles in mathematics that they may be facing, are critical to their success and are greatly appreciated as or in your partnership in their education is greatly appreciated. Many parents often wonder how they can support their child in mathematics, and this part of the curriculum document also outlines how parents can do so. And really the focus is on showing an interest first in what your children are learning and by discovering how your children are learning. So for example, activities that we've participated in tonight demonstrate how using models and these real life examples to explore concepts and develop conceptual understanding before moving towards just a fact fluency piece are critical. And you participating in this tonight and doing some of that learning alongside are ways in which you are already supporting your child in learning mathematics. Supporting your child's learning by encouraging them to complete mathematics tasks, practicing new skills and concepts, applying new math learning to experience at home, and connecting mathematical experiences at home and in your community to learning at school are many other ways in which you can also support your child in mathematics. You are an integral part of your child's interactions and experiences with mathematics, and research does show that positive attitudes in mathematics are critical for our student success. So your partnership in developing those positive attitudes through celebrating successes in mathematics, sharing the wonder and joy that we can find in mathematics and finding ways to speak about your own experiences in mathematics in positive ways, both exploring where we might have experienced challenges and overcome them, but also sharing moments where mathematics was a moment of wonder or excitement for you, help our students and help your children to develop those positive attitudes, but also help them to cultivate perseverance when solving challenging problems in mathematics, and helping them to believe that they will succeed, they can succeed, and build that self-confidence in a great positive sense of identity as a math learner. So I'll turn it over to Matthew Callahan, and he'll be sharing with you a little bit about some of our resources that support us in mathematics classrooms.
Hello.
I'll do this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. As was stated by Andrea, I'm just going to take a moment to speak briefly about Math Up and Mathology, which are our text resources for grade 1 to 8. They are board-supported resources that align with our 2020 curriculum, our Ontario mathematics curriculum. They're not traditional textbooks as we have been used to in the past, but they do provide the option for print resources that you may see coming home with your children or that students may be working on as part of their classroom learning. The wonderful thing about these resources is that they both support teachers with mathematics instruction and provide resources for students to learn mathematics. There are not only teacher supports on there, but there are parent supports that teachers can share. And there are also opportunities for some mathematics play and gamification through Math Up, as well as online digital resources and manipulatives that students can use through Mathology. So that was just a little short introduction into those two pieces, and I'm going to turn it back over to Michael as well.
We just want to thank you all for coming, and thank you all virtually for attending and participating. I hope that the virtual experience was enlightening and as interactive, minus the chocolate at home, as it was for us here in person. Just wanted to give you some things to think about. We've included this in the slides. Roles and responsibilities of parents in mathematics education for students and for parents. You can find that online. And if you're ever wondering, you can always find out what the curriculum says just by going to the Ministry of Education's website. You can type in Ministry of Education Mathematics and it'll give you a link. And it'll actually give you every grade's expectations plus examples, teacher supports of what you would expect your child to be learning in that specific grade. Plus, it'll tell you everything they're supposed to know from grade 1 to grade 8 and beyond. So we're always happy that you would access that link and you could kind of take a look. What does that look like? Sometimes you might get some work home and say, I'm not quite sure why they're doing this. And then you can look online and see, oh, this is why, this is how it's connected. Here's some examples. And maybe there's examples there that work for you that your child may be introduced to and you're wondering, why is it going this way? We also have a Parent's Guide to Mathematics online that's available to you as parents. And not to mention TVO Learn Mathify. There's some games on there. And TVO Mathify also provides free tutoring services for students from grades, I believe, 4 to 12, and accessible for all parents to sign up and get access to. So if you ever needed, maybe you're frustrated with something going on at home with the work that your child's being assigned, you can give TVO Mathify a call and sign up to get some tutoring supports, and they'll be able to give you a call and sign you up. But before I leave, I just wanted to thank all the parents here, especially your interest in your kids' education, and those of you online. Very much appreciate your dedication and support, your willingness to be here and to take the time. And those of you who are watching this as a recording, we really want to thank you for that too, for your support. We're always available for contact. I always recommend starting with your classroom teacher or your principal to look for extra supports and how you might be engaging more. If you're interested in any of the resources that we're providing, maybe you haven't seen them yet in action in your school, you're always welcome to talk to your teacher or your principal about that, because they do know, and we've been sharing very frequently what's available. So thank you very much. And I do have a few minutes, I think, to take a few questions here in person and potentially virtually. We could start in person if anybody has any questions for me.
Knowledge of a tool that can be accessed from home as well, or is it accessed only from the school premises?
Actually, we very much would love for parents to access that at home with their kids. And we very much invite parents to be sitting beside their kids when they're working on it. There's some people that are very closely related to me that may or may not like that idea all the time, but it's just the way that we do business at home. So, and it's a great way for me to engage with my kids to see what they're learning and understand. It's all grade relevant and related to the curriculum 100%. It's an Ontario product, so know that whatever data is being collected or however it's being used. But the really great part about it is when you are doing it, and we do ask, like, you could work with your kids a little bit, but it's great if they kind of struggle through it a little bit because the data goes back to the classroom teacher. They can see what they're completing, they can see where the struggles are, and oftentimes that's the work that we end up doing. You kind of saw how we do that on Game Show. Teachers are able to grab that information in a spreadsheet and see, oh, well, I see that this student is struggling with this idea, so I'm going to work with them individually on this idea right now. It's kind of like you would have gotten 50 quizzes in 2 months from your teacher, but now it's online and it's more gamified. We know that that actually engages our students more. But the Mathalon is the one that we'd ask you most definitely to access at home all the time and do as much as you wanted that. There's a great challenge in there to kind of get as many stars as you can in a row, which I try myself when I go into the grade 10 mode and it doesn't do grade 11, but it's always great to refresh my own mind. There's one more question in the chat.
More than.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so.
You might have time for about 1 or 2 more questions.
There's a question that since there's an Ontario mathematics curriculum, does that mean it's the same curriculum for Catholic and public boards?
Absolutely. We follow the Ontario curriculum. What we do as a Catholic system is try to embed Catholic values. So I'll give you an example of that. At the beginning of the year, Andrea Turquette, our math consultant, led the mathology training, but also encouraged teachers to think about the religion curriculum and how we could unite the two. So I would give you examples of like social justice issues in the world. And as a percentage, how many people have access to clean drinking water, right? And how much water would we use here in Ontario and leaders? And so you start thinking about the curriculum as teachers, we start thinking, okay, so I use this many liters. This person in a country where they don't have access to clean drinking water only uses this many liters. You know, how is that fair, right? And what can we do to maybe help those kids out or help the people of this country out in order to get clean drinking water to make the world a better place for everyone. So we always take advantage of what we know about math and take the Ontario curriculum and then think about how we could apply it into a Catholic perspective.
We have a few questions remaining. There's a question about EQAO. There's two parts. Are students allowed or not allowed to use paper during the EQAO exam? So just a clarifying question. And then a question about timing as well. So we can address the paper question
So
first.
Students are allowed paper to write on. It's not submitted as part of the assessment, but they're allowed to use as much paper as they need in order to think we encourage it. We really want them to use the paper. Because sometimes we find students use multiple choice. They kind of treat it like the games at home where they could keep restarting it over and over. Fortunately, you can't do that with EQAO. You get one chance. So we actively encourage kids to prove how they know that their answer is right before selecting what they think is the right answer. And we do some practice sessions with students. Most schools will do that, where they'll expose them to the multiple choice and then give some feedback as to how they might tackle that. In terms of time, there's an unlimited amount of uninterrupted time to write the assessment. So what that means is if your child is writing the assessment, they are allowed a bathroom break, they can go out, but they can't go have recess and come back and keep writing the assessment. They have to do in one session. They can't go home and then start it up again. So when the session starts, that's when the session starts, and they're working on that assessment until they finish, or they just feel like I've done the best I can and I just can't keep going. At which point we submit the assessment as it is. But they are allowed bathroom breaks. They can take, typically, it's an hour that they would have to write it, but if they need more time, they are allowed that time. But we wouldn't be giving them an extra recess time or something, but they are also allowed, if they need a snack or a drink or something like that, they're allowed those things during the assessment, just to make sure that they're comfortable and they feel like they're in their best spot possible. Schools tend to schedule these assessments at ideal times. So in the morning, when they've kind of settled, and they give them that full hour to work. But then if, they're still working on it and the recess bell rings, they're asked to keep continuing to work on it and do the best that they can.
So another question in the chat is, what's the differences among the digital learning tools that we offer, and which tool is more helpful to the EQAO assessments? Should parents and guardians be using all of them or stick with one is enough?
The tool, the students will likely be exposed to the online tool, the online assessment for EQAO, because there aren't very many practice tests for them to do. So you could probably reserve that one for kids to do at school. Knowledge Hook is probably your best bet at home. Caribou Math is more for more advanced thinking in mathematics and practicing, just applying more of the math that you've learned in school into a contest type of scenario. And same with the games that are there. So it's Knowledge Hook is really the best way to go. And it gives them exposure to those multiple choice type questions that they will see in EQAO.
Another question, is there a parents portal in Knowledge Hook to access analytics, progress, or areas of difficulty? In time, there will be. At this point, it hasn't been released. There's just been some kinks in it, but we're working through that. But yes, there is a moment in time where parents could get information and access to how their students are doing. We just want to make sure we have it right in the right spot, and that Knowledge Hook has it. And Andrea might clarify something for me. Clarify.
So just to clarify with Knowledge Hook and access for parents and guardians at home, students can request certain things in Knowledge Hook after grade 2, because part of Knowledge Hook does have a small gamification element that's only available outside of school hours. And so students can access or request, little items by completing tasks successfully, and through that parents and guardians can reward students who are accomplishing and completing different tasks in Knowledge Hook successfully with little stickers, activities, decor, for lack of a better term, for their avatar in the game. And it's a very small portion of Knowledge Hook, but some students and children will ask for those pieces, and you have the choice as a parent or guardian as to whether or not you turn that on and allow that. And what you will see as a parent or guardian is always something that you can cheer, and that's, I believe that is still what Knowledge Hook calls it, is you can kind of send a cheers or a way to positively support your child and celebrate their accomplishments in Knowledge Hook.
On paper.
That the EQAO will now be always online. So the good news is they're still allowed an unlimited amount of paper in order to solve their problems, but they're only using the online version at this point. And I think that's everything. So thank you, everybody. I think we hit our 8:30 marker, almost close to the minute, and I'll cede the floor to our chair.
Thank you so much. Can we give our presenters a warm round of applause? On behalf of CPIC, we want to thank Superintendent Shiprick, Andrea Turkett, Chris Vanwell, as well as Matt Callaghan for a wonderful presentation, as well as our live audience. To our virtual parents, guardians online, thank you for your wonderful questions. CPIC would like you to know that we have another exciting and engaging session on vaping and support for parents. This event will be on Thursday, May 2nd, so please stay tuned for more details that will be rolled out in April. We're also looking for feedback and suggestions from the community on topics parents and guardians would like CPIC to present. If you have suggestions on any topic in the future, please feel free to submit your ideas to CPIC's email, which is cipic@hcdsb.org. Go to the website. You'll find that information there as well. Today's presentation was very engaging, providing knowledge tools and EQAO information that's very, very helpful to parents. And I enjoyed the chocolate part. I just want to say that. CPIC is also taking nominations for our upcoming Volunteer Award of the Year. Yay. It's a very important role that volunteers play in our schools, and CPIC Parent Guardian Volunteer Award of the Year acknowledges the volunteers who play very integral role in building a vibrant, caring, inclusive, and faith-based school communities in Halton Catholic District School Board. So this award is to honor and celebrate parents or guardians who have made significant contributions to the Catholic School Board, and we want to make sure we support our volunteers consistently by recognizing them. On that final note, we ask that you please submit your nominations. I'm sure the emails have been rolled out. The deadline to provide your nominations is April the 5th, 2024, midnight. And on this final note, it is my pleasure as your chair to wish you a happy, wonderful good evening, and we look forward to seeing you all at our next speaker event. Have a great evening. Thank you, parents, for joining online. Hopefully you come next time to enjoy our chocolates that we got today. And I wish you all a fantastic evening. Thank you again.